Intercepted by Aeneas Williams. Well, Williams down the sideline. And he's going to score. What a run by Williams.
Aeneas Williams scored 2 first-half touchdowns to give the Cardinals a 17-7 lead at the half. But the Saints came out in the second half, looking like the team that went 5-0 to start the season. Wade Wilson hit Quinn Early with a score to tie the game at 17. And then Gene Atkins made a big play on defense.
Chandler is going deep for Randall Hill, and it's intercepted by Gene Atkins down the sideline.
With a Morton Anderson field goal, the Saints won it 20-17 to go to 6-2 on the year.
We had to bring that back to the house. On open week, we had to bring that one back.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the show. All right. Thank you. Hard to keep them down tonight. Back on track. The Saints did indeed break the 2-game losing streak with that win over Phoenix. We'll talk about that with player guest Richard Cooper. We'll go live to the Grand Casino. Questions from all over the place and more. Let's start things off by bringing out the head coach of the Saints, Jim Mora. Hello, Jim. How you doing? Good group.
Hard to control this rambunctious crowd of Saints fans.
Boy, it's a good group tonight, isn't it? This is the loudest group we've had this year, I think.
I think they're happy the Saints are back on track. Jim, it wasn't easy, though. I know you are. 2 costly turnovers in the first half, but in the second half, the Saints took control and won the game.
Right. We came in at halftime, and I felt like our guys, you know, they were disappointed and a little frustrated about what had happened the first half, but they weren't, you know, in a state of shock or anything. They felt like that we were the better team, that if they went out and continued to play hard and didn't make those kind of mistakes again, but just kept playing hard, tough Saints football, that we could win the game, and that's what we did.
The 2 turnovers in the first half did not bother the team. I mean, obviously, you said they came out and were ready to go again.
It always bothers you when those kind of things happen, but it wasn't like it was, you know, it was 17-7, so we was only 10 points down, a touchdown and a field goal, and we're back in, you know, a tie with them. So I think it was a question that, hey, we can't let them get anything more, and we're going to have to get some points, and we just kept battling and kept fighting and got it done.
All right, we'll take a look at the game action. We'll go into the Phoenix locker room as well and hear what they had to say. We will do that and more when we come back.
Coming up, the coach reveals the turning point and hear the other side's opinion of our New Orleans Saints.
We are back. And we're going now to look at the Cardinals-Saints highlights, starting with the first half, which makes sense. The Saints scored first, Jim. Brad Muster will get his first touchdown as a Saint on this run.
Right. Brad had his best game as a Saint. He caught a nice pass to set this run up here, and we got really good blocking from the right side of our line, and there was a real good hole for Brad to run through.
Defense getting pressure now. Gene Atkins will get through and get the sack.
This was a big play by Gene because they had actually had first down, I think, on our 3-yard line. Then that was the second play. We got a sack, and we forced him into kicking a field goal.
Then some turnovers. Wilson to Quinn Early. We saw it before. Stripped by Massey, and Aeneas Williams scored it.
Right. Now, this wasn't a highlight for us, but it's on the highlight film. But that was not a good play. And, hey, those things happen. You got to fight through them and overcome them and bounce back, which we were able to do. Now, here's another one for them. Aeneas, you know, is a New Orleans guy.
Right.
And I guess the Williams household was cheering when these things were going on.
But Jim, on that one, he threw into triple coverage.
Well, a triple coverage. Yeah, well, they were in a I think it was a cover 2, and Aeneas was the corner, and he kind of dropped off. And,
so just a bad throw by Wade?
That wasn't a real good throw by Wade.
All right.
He'd like to have it back, I'm sure.
All right, it was 17-7 at the half. Now to the second half, the good stuff. The Cardinals would not get any more points, and the Saints would. Fourth quarter, we go to the Saints drive here. Eric Martin takes it 18 yards.
This is a real good play by Eric. Eric's so strong. See, he breaks tackles. He did this earlier in the game and is able to run, you know, get good yardage after the catch. And here's, I think this is a touchdown. Yeah,
Quinn early.
Yeah, and Quinn runs a post pattern, and Robert Massey was covering him man for man. He beat him, and it was a great throw and a great catch.
That tied it up 17-7 at that point. Then the defense came through. Chris Chandler in a quarterback, and Gene Atkins will step in front of one
This
here.
is a big play for us. We're down 17-17 at this point, and they're trying to hit the guy that Toy was covering, and Gene was playing like a free safety, and went over there and made a good break on the ball, made a good pick, and a good run back, got us in position for the field goal that won the game.
Right, the game-winning points here. Morton Anderson kicked it through. It was 20-17. In the Cards, they got the ball, but they couldn't move because the defense kept it up. Ronaldo Turnbull had 3 sacks. He gets to Chandler on this one.
Right, now they get the ball back, and we sacked them 2 times in a row. Here's one by Ronaldo, and this basically took them out of good field position, and that fourth quarter was a great fourth quarter for us.
Right, 6 sacks on the day,
right.
And the final was 20-17.
Right.
All right, now to the turning point. Jim, you obviously thought it came in the second half.
Well, I thought there were 2 or 3 things that were critical in the second half. One here was that we were a punt out of our end zone by Tommy Barnhardt. We were really backed up, and he gets a 57-yard punt, and we got good coverage. So that was a play that was important. Here's a play that was very important. It was their miss of a 49-yard field goal, which kept us within striking distance. And then here was the interception by Gene Atkins, which gave us the field position to get the game-winning field goal. So I felt like there were 3 critical things that happened there in that second half that really meant a lot to the outcome of the game.
Those 3 plays turned the game. All right, let's hear what the other side had to say about this one. In a segment not surprisingly entitled The Other Side, we go to the Cardinals locker room to hear their post-game comments.
Going into the game, I thought Turnbull, Jackson, and Vaughn Johnson were great football players, and those are 3 guys we had to stop, and apparently we didn't.
No excuses. We lost. Lose as a team, win as a team, and regardless of what else happened, we should have held them down to 10 points and won the game.
From a personal standpoint, to get a victory, anything that I could do, I'm going to do it. Just keep working hard. That's the only way I know. I mean, to keep working hard and do even more than what I'm doing right now. Really help us win, and just main thing is everyone sticking together. These are tough times, and I think perseverance brings patience, and that's what's being developed right now. Our endurance, patience, and all those things.
They controlled our front line, and they came with everything they had, and they came ready to play, and I don't think we showed up today, and it's getting to a point now where it's getting real frustrated.
Good defensive effort for the win, Jim.
Lionel, I would like to make a comment. You mentioned a good defensive effort, and one of our defensive players set a record yesterday. Ricky Jackson played in his 187th game as a Saint, which is the most games that any Saints player has ever played in for the New Orleans Saints. I think
all right. He broke Stan Brock's record.
Right.
Okay, time for another break, but stick around. Strap on your helmets, your hard hats, whatever. We'll head out to the Grand Casino for Ron Swoboda and Rich Mauti. We'll be right back with that.
When we return, we'll visit fans in the stands as the Jim Mora Show presents Hey Coach.
Welcome back to the big show. As we always do about this time, let's head out to the east, to the coast, the Grand Casino in Gulfport, where Ron Swoboda and Rich Mauti are hanging out. Ron, what's going on at the Grand tonight?
Thank you, Lionel, very much. And, Coach, I'm Ron, and this is Rich.
I'm Rich, Coach, just to help you out a little.
We know
Hey, there's no way I could forget either one of you guys, so I don't need to sign on
had
you.
a little trouble, and we thought we'd help you out there. And maybe in the same way the coach mixes us up, we're trying to figure out, with the Saints offense, who are these guys after this 3 games back from the break, 2 losses and the win yesterday. I still see a team that can't catch the ball occasionally, didn't blow anybody away in the middle of that ball game running it, but especially the drops must have been annoying to a quarterback like Wade Wilson trying to get himself on track.
Little lack of concentration here. I think that, this ties in with some of the penalties that are really uncharacteristic. Now, let's not lose sight of the fact that they won the game, and it's great to win under any circumstances.
Coach.
But some of the things that they've been doing early on in the year are still happening. The drop passes, the penalties, some some turnovers that are really uncharacteristic. One of the things that I was a little concerned about is the emotion again, and I'm going to ask Coach a little bit later on about that. But I think even though the win is great, it's a good win. It's good to now reflect on that with 2 weeks off. There are still some areas that need to be addressed, and they need to get better at. I didn't see a whole lot of
who was the real one, though? And then we saw in the first drive of the game about that's as quality an offense as Wade Wilson can run. And it was interesting. He threw the ball to Muster out of the backfield. He threw the ball to Eric Martin, who broke loose from Chris Oldham twice in the ball game. And of course, the great pass to Early. Those were precision passes. Those were passing drives for 2 slick touchdowns. And the offense has not performed that well in these last 3 games.
Interestingly enough, the first drive is mostly passes. That's one way of correcting the run. You can ignore it and just throw the ball as long as you can score. And, of course, in the fourth quarter, they get the run together very, very well. Hilliard does a great job, and they take it into control of the game.
Yeah, I like the touchdowns and I like the win, but we're still trying to figure out who is this Saints offense. Back to you, Lionel and Coach.
All right, Ron and Rich. Jim, what do you tell guys when they drop
Those
footballs?
guys or the players?
No, the players when they.
I know what I would like to tell those guys.
But say a guy like
They're
Derek
getting
Brown.
worse. They're getting worse. I mean, I swear to God, those 2 guys are getting worse. So go ahead.
In what way, though? I mean, worse.
I can't believe that those guys were actually played sports. Rich played for the Saints. Did Rich play for the Saints?
Yes,
and
he did.
Ron played professional baseball?
Yeah.
That's hard for me to believe. When I hear comments the same, it's hard for me to believe these guys were athletes and played competitive sports. But I guess they did.
What, just because of the fact that you guys won the game and then they're picking out
No,
things
I just,
that-
hey, Lionel, forget it. It's not, all I can say is they're getting worse.
All right, we'll try to get that out of you a little bit later on.
Nah,
What do you mean?
I'm done talking
All right.
about them.
Well, we'll be back out there.
Yeah.
We'll be glad to know
Good.
a little later in the show.
Can they hear me? I hope they can.
I think they can now.
Good.
We'll check
Let's
on them
go.
later. But right now, we're going to get to our first question for you, Coach. This is called Hey, Coach. Since the Saints were out of town, we headed to Metairie this week. Let's listen to our first question now.
Hey, Coach, Marty from Desterham. With Dalton Hilliard's performance here in the second half, do you think you'll put him in a little bit longer next week?
Marty, that's hard for me to say. You know, we'd like not to play Dalton all the time because I think when we don't play him all the time, then we're able to get the performances out of him that we got out of him Sunday when we really needed it. And hopefully that he'll continue to give us some play like that and help us win games in the future. But I think if we played him all the time, that we wouldn't get that kind of effort out of him in the fourth quarter.
Let's get to our next question.
Hey, Coach, Rob Robertson from New Orleans. I want to know why you don't play Derek Ned more often. He seems like a better back than Brad Muster.
Well, right now, Brad's our #1 fullback and had a good game against Phoenix yesterday, and we're very happy with Brad. We're very happy with Derek, and we're glad we got both of them. They're both good football players.
We've got one more question for you tonight, Jim.
Hey, Coach, we're the Hooter Girls from Metairie, and we want to know what you are for Halloween.
What I want for Halloween?
What you were.
I'd rather have them on than Swoboda and Mauti. I know that. What I was for Halloween?
Yeah,
I was sitting on. I had no
yeah.
costume on. I know for a while there it looked like we probably should have had a mask on in the game, but no, we didn't have time. We didn't get back till about 11 o'clock last night, so.
No costume.
No costume.
All right. More questions will pop up later in the show. But first, let's hear from one of the Saints' assistant coaches. It's Coach's Handbook. And in this one, Brian Grenrud got with defensive coordinator Steve Sidwell to talk about the defense.
This week on the Coach's Handbook, we're going to talk about the Saints' base defense, the 3-4. And to talk to us this week about the 3-4 defense is Saints defensive coordinator Steve Sidwell. And Coach, exactly what is a 3-4?
Well, the 3-4 is 4 linebackers, 4 DBs, and 3 down linemen. The linebackers are in 2 groups. There's the inside linebackers and the outside linebackers. Basically, the outside linebackers' function is in our defense to rush the passer and occasionally drop. The inside linebackers' defense, or the function, is to be able to flow to the run, be in the pass coverage element, and very seldom do these guys rush the passer. Okay, the defensive line's primary function versus the run is to use up blocks so that the linebackers are free to run and make plays, okay? And they are also responsible for rushing the passer. On every down, either one of these guys or one of these guys is going to be responsible for containing the passer. On every down, anybody on the ball yard can be responsible for forcing the run. Okay, and what you do is you end up putting all of these people in different spots in an effort to trying to stack up for what the offense is strong at.
So everybody basically on the field has got to be able to read and react to this.
There's no question about it. I mean, and while we're reading and reacting, the offense is doing the same thing to us, so we try to get some element of coverage disguise in there and movement of our fronts, which will help confuse their reading of our defense. It's just a little bit of you're just trying to find a way to get a little bit of an edge or a little bit of hesitancy in what their basic thought process is so that you defensively can have a successful down.
Great. All right, Coach, thanks a lot. We'll see you next week on Coach's Handbook.
We've got to go away again, but when we come back, we'll talk with Coop, Saints offensive tackle Richard Cooper. We'll have that right after this.
Coming up next on the Jim Mora Show, we'll go one-on-one with Saints punter Tommy Barnhardt. That's next.
Hello again. When you see offensive highlights, you usually see the quarterback throwing the ball, receiver catching the ball, the running back running the ball. But it all starts in the trenches, on the line. And we've got one of those linemen here tonight with us. Let's welcome number 71, Richard Cooper.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Richard. Happy birthday to you.
All right. Richard, your birthday today. Happy birthday. A little surprise for you, but it falls on the Saints' birthday as well. The Saints born on All Saints Day. Got a good present yesterday, beating the Cardinals, heading into the second open date with a win. Coop, that's got to relieve some of the pressure, if you were feeling some, after the 2 losses.
Yeah, you know, we still got a lot of season left. You know, each game, we go in trying to win every one of them. But realistically, you know, it would be nice to win all of them, but I don't think we will.
Now, against Phoenix, the running game numbers weren't spectacular, but when it counted in the second half, you were able to drive the ball on the ground and also hold it at the end when you need to keep it away from the Cardinals. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I don't think we changed anything. It's just like the coach has been telling us all week, you know, fight, 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 and good things will happen. And fortunately, they did.
Now, tell me this, Richard. It seems like momentum plays a big part in the game. The team was 5-0 at one point. Everything was going right. Then the next 2 games, it seemed like just the opposite. Now, do you think you've recaptured that 5-0 feeling right now?
I think so. You know, we got a lot of young guys mixed with veterans. We have a good time in practice. We get a lot of work done.
Right.
Just to go take some buckling down, especially this open week, and get back on track.
Richard, before the season started, I remember a story Jim Gallagher did with you in camp. You said top priority was getting the running game in order and getting the offensive line improved. Do you think that's happened so far?
I think so. You know, we were very aggressive the first 5 games. Going back and looking at the first 5, you can tell in the film. Right. And the fourth quarter of Phoenix, I think we recaptured some of that feeling.
All right, you got married during the last open date. You've got another one. What are you going to do now, a delayed honeymoon or something?
No, I'll enjoy being married this often. The last one was hectic.
All right. Now, we asked this question once again, the open date. Glad to see it or not?
I'm glad to see it. You know, a couple of guys, we got a few wounds and everything. Myself and Frank Warren, a couple of key guys. I think it'll help us.
All right, we'll talk more later, Richard. For being our player guest tonight, Richard Cooper will receive a gift certificate from Open Heart Jewelers on Metairie Road. The Saints have been blessed with one of the game's best kickers in Morton Anderson, but they've also got one of the game's best punters In this week's Snapshot, Jim Gallagher profiles that man, punter Tommy Barnhardt.
Tommy Barnhardt has quietly emerged as the best punter in New Orleans Saints history, and he's having his best season yet. His ability to pin down opponents has been uncanny. In fact, he's leading the NFL with 17 kicks inside the 20-yard line.
Get better with age, like an old bottle of wine, and it's you know, I feel like I'm getting things accomplished more and more every year, something different or adding to something that I haven't accomplished in the previous years, and I feel like that the things that I'm getting accomplished are making me a more complete player, and that I'm getting there. I don't think I'm quite there yet, but I think I'm getting close.
But Tommy almost didn't make it with the Saints. In fact, he almost didn't make it in the NFL, period. His big break came in the 1987 strike season when he crossed the line and kicked in the replacement games.
Like Mr. Fink said, I can see it to this day when I walk in the room and he sit down and he's standing up there in front of us and he goes, guys, he says, we're here to give you an opportunity to see what you can do and give you an opportunity to play in the league against some guys that crossed the picket line and we're going to play that were regular players and a lot of other guys that didn't have the chance to make the teams that were next in line, and just to see what you can do. And that was one of the reasons why I took that opportunity from the moment he said that and said, hey, I'm going out here to show what I can do. This could be my break in the NFL.
Tommy wound up 87 with the Bears. He spent 88 with the Redskins, but finally found a home here in New Orleans in 1989. He's actually a quarterback by trade, leading his South Rowan High School team to the playoffs a few years ago. But at Carolina, he became a full-time punter, and he's never looked back.
Tommy, you always hear the old cliche that punters or kickers aren't athletes, but you can't believe that.
You know, I think it's a cliche a lot of times. And the thing about it is, I think if you look around in the pros today, most punters or kickers were quarterbacks or pretty good golfers or tennis players or basketball players. And, you know, I think that cliche is kind of moving on from the past and just kind of put back into the past.
Tommy, not only do you punt, but you also have a very important job. The Saints fans, almost as important as what you do, is holding for Morton. And that's a key component for you, isn't it?
A lot of people don't realize the work and the effort that goes into that. And I mean, in training camp, we probably take 2,000 to 3,000 snaps before we even touch the season. And the whole thing behind it is Morton is a perfectionist like all of us are. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why he's the very best at what he does today. And he's that difficult to work for when I'm holding for him. And at first, I didn't think I could work for him. He knows that I'm going to get the ball down regardless of whether it's high, whether it's low, whether it's on the ground. And he stays with me because I know that if I can get the ball down, it's going to be almost automatic 3 points.
For the Jim Mora Show, I'm Jim Gallagher.
All right, Jim. Coming up next, back to the Grand Casino for more questions for the coach, so don't go away. We're coming right back.
When we come back, Ron and guests talk to the coach from the Grand Casino in Gulfport.
Back to the Gulf Coast, and once again join Ron Swoboda and Rich Mauti at the Grand Casino, where some Saints fans have gathered to celebrate the Halloween win. Ron, Rich?
Yes, the questions only get better, Lionel and Coach, and your name and your question.
Dave Langdon, Long Beach, Mississippi. Coach, were you surprised that Phoenix didn't try and jam the line of scrimmage with 5 or 6 front men like Atlanta and Pittsburgh did?
Well, no, not really. I mean, every team has their own philosophy of playing defense, and Phoenix's philosophy is different than Atlanta's and Pittsburgh. And they stuck with what they've been doing. They like it. They know how to play it, and they've been successful with it, so they stuck with it.
All right, I have another question for you, Jim. Your name and your question, please, sir.
Hi, Coach. Mike from Baton Rouge. I was just wondering if you felt that the drop passes and the penalties was from a lack of concentration or if it was just from having new personnel in there.
Neither. It wasn't from lack of concentration, and it wasn't from having new personnel because the guys that we had a few drops, but guys have been playing all year for us, have been playing in the league. So, you know, everybody drops passes once in a while, and you have a few penalties once in a while. You're not going to play a perfect game, and that's part of football. Part of sport.
Well, yeah, maybe it was that light desert
even
air.
baseball, huh? Did you ever drop
I had
a ball?
a perfect game one time, Coach. I struck out 5 times in a row. That's about as perfect as
that
you
only
can
happened
get.
once?
Yeah.
How we done?
Let me ask you something, though, Coach. I took the bat and went up there, though. I'll tell you that.
You did what?
Did you feel like the team got better against the Phoenix Cardinals, or that you basically played a team that was going to have trouble beating you, that you played a worse team than either Pittsburgh or Atlanta?
I thought we played better than we played the previous 2 weeks, Ron. And all
Well, it
teams
looked
in
like
this
a
league
W to me.
all teams in this league are good, so we don't try to make a lot of comparisons. Everybody's good. Everybody's capable.
I
of beating
understand
us.
that.
Right.
But there's a reality somewhere. Probably we won't get to it here, though. Okay, well, that'll do it from the Grand Casino. We'll be seeing you later.
Yes, one more time. We'll be back there to the Grand. Ron and Rich, thanks a lot. Now let's get to the studio audience, something we call the Michael Hebert Armchair Quarterback segment. We will give away a piece of furniture from Michael Hebert's store in just a few minutes, but first, the questions from the studio audience. Let's get to our first one now.
Hey, Coach. Chris from Metairie. With Atlanta and Pittsburgh exposing our lack of speed at receiver and Floyd Turner being inactive, would you consider taking J.J. McCleskey off the developmental squad and onto the active roster?
Well, first of all, I don't think that Pittsburgh or Atlanta exposed the lack of speed at receiver. I don't understand what you're talking about there, to be honest with you, because we've got good enough speed at wide receiver. So, and we have no intention right now of having J.J. on our active roster because he's not as good as the other 6 guys that we got there.
Hi, I'm Fred from Metairie. I'd like to know, how is it that the fans down here most of the time can predict the plays that y'all are calling out there?
I didn't know that they could.
Hey, Coach, this question's for Richard. Richard, what would you do if your wife was to have a baby on game day, and would you go to the game or be with your wife?
You want me to flip a coin? Probably play. I don't know.
When we reach that situation, we'll answer that question then.
Yeah.
All right, audience, thanks for the questions tonight. That's all the time we have. Now it's time to pick a winner. Out of this bowl, a new Benchcraft recliner from Michael Hebert's Furniture is up for grabs. And Richard, let you do the honors there. You can read the name and the question.
Read the name.
Jeff Perez.
Where's Jeff Perez? There
All
he
right,
is.
Jeff. Oh, read the question.
Yes, for you, Richard.
Let's see. What are the 3 toughest defensive linemen that you have faced in your career as a Saint? Chris Dolman, Derek Thomas. He's a linebacker. He's very tough. Clyde Simmons. I think he's an underrated defensive end, but he's very tough.
All right, there you have it.
Good.
Thanks for the question tonight. Enjoy the new Benchcraft recliner from Michael Hebert's Furniture.
Good question.
As we know, the Saints have a bye week coming up next week, another open date. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And we'll also talk Saints football with a wide and diverse range of celebrities. You'll see that when we come back from this break.
Coming up next on the Jim Mora Show, we'll talk Saints football with Hall of Famer and Inside the NFL host, Len Dawson. He's next.
Every week, right here on the Jim Mora program, we hear from different celebrities and notables. Among other things, they talk about the Saints. This week, the entire Channel 8 on-air staff got into it as we present another edition of What I Say. In Phoenix, Ron Swoboda caught up with former Seattle Mariners and Chicago Cubs manager Jim Lefebvre. He was also a former Major League player.
I wonder how many people know I finished runner-up to you as Rookie of the Year in 1965.
How many people? One? You?
You?
Lefebvre says there's a big difference between baseball and football.
One thing about football, you got all week to think about your wins, and you have all week to think about your losses. But once you start winning again, I mean, it just reignites the team, and I think that's exactly what the Saints are looking for today.
I talked this week with TV stars Kellie Williams and Shawn Harrison from the ABC show Family Matters.
Shawn plays Waldo on the show.
Here.
What are these?
IOUs. Some people didn't have enough money to pay, so I insisted that they leave their name and number.
Everyone on the show has a completely different character. I mean, they're completely different than the characters that they play on TV. Like, for instance, I'm a completely stupid person on the program, but I want to tell everyone I'm quite intelligent.
Kellie plays Laura, the girl who refuses to go out with the show's star, Steve Urkel.
I don't write it. People give me hate mail. I hate you. Why don't you go out with Urkel? You know, I love Urkel, really, I do.
Williams likes the leader of the Saints defense.
Who? Ricky Jackson.
You know Ricky Jackson, the Saints?
He's my fave.
He's your fave?
Yeah.
The actor and the actress don't get much time to watch football, but they do know the Saints cheers.
Cha-ching. Like that one too?
Yeah.
Right, I know
Remember that one from last year, Cha-ching. It's changed, though.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Who that is?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I know all about the Saints.
You know, I'd like to say something to Jim Mora. Hire me, Jim. Bill Clinton's raising my taxes, and I got 2 ugly kids to afford. Take a look. Couldn't you use this face on the Suicide Squad? I want to be a New Orleans Saint. Bang, bang!
Cactus Jack wants to be a New Orleans Saint, Jim.
I'd rather have guys that have the teeth because the guys that have the teeth, I know they're doing a good job. Those guys that got their teeth knocked out, they're having problems.
That's true. He could be on the injured list with no teeth. Need the healthy players. Well, since it is a bye week, there are no Saints away tailgate winners. We hope you're taking part in our Dodge giveaway, though. You could win Saints home game tickets or a fully catered suite in the Superdome, and the grand prize is a fully loaded Dodge truck. Just go to any local Dodge dealer to enter. It's all thanks to Saints Digest, WVUE Sports, and your local Dodge dealers. Now, usually, we talk with the Saints' next opponent's coach in Coach's Handbook. Well, it's another open date, so we'll do that next week. This week, we got in touch with Len Dawson, former Kansas City Chiefs quarterback and current co-host of HBO's Inside the NFL. Len, what's your assessment, your evaluation of the Saints at the halfway point of the season?
Overall, the Saints are a good football team. They've had their problems the last couple of weeks, but offensively and defensively, they've been putting things together. They just got to get back to the form they were in the first part of the season. But I look at that football team, and I looked at it early and said, hey, this team has a shot at the whole thing.
As a former quarterback yourself, what do you think Wade Wilson has brought to the Saints offense?
I think right now that Wade Wilson is providing that stability that you're looking for in the quarterback position, giving them consistency. And the leadership ability of Wade Wilson, I think, is coming to the front, and it's showing in the way they're doing things offensively.
Sports Illustrated, in their mid-season ratings, and I quote, called Wade Wilson the free agent acquisition of the year. Do you agree with that?
Well, I wouldn't really disagree with it because I think he got off to a terrific start. I think a lot of people didn't think the Saints would do as well as they did at the beginning of the season, but I think a big reason they were successful is that Wade Wilson did a great job.
Len, how do you explain the Saints' inability to stop the run this year as well as they've done in the past years?
I think the problem with the Saints versus the running game is they've had some injury problems. Secondly, other teams are finding a little gap there that wasn't there before. I don't know what it is with the Saints because in the past they did an outstanding job against the running game. I look for them to get back on track, though, because I think they're too good of a defensive team to let folks run on them.
Len, you went on the record early in the year and predicted a Kansas City-New Orleans Super Bowl. Do you still believe the Saints are headed for the Super Bowl?
Atlanta, that's where I'll be going in late January to take a look at the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the New Orleans Saints. Oh, yes, they still very much have a shot at things. First of all, they got to take care of business, take care of their division, then after that, get hot in the playoffs. But I think they got the tools to get there.
Finally, any messages for Coach Jim Mora?
I just hope Jim Mora gets that team back on track and gets them winning again because our HBO crew, we're looking forward to coming down there the French Quarter and do another show on the Saints. We can't do it unless you get on a winning streak.
So, Jim, are you going to now book the rooms for Atlanta, the Super Bowl with Len Dawson?
We're booking the Hilton Hotel for Saturday night before we play Green Bay. That's all we're booking.
That's the way you got to approach it, I guess.
That's right.
I mean, people talking Super Bowl now is sort of ridiculous.
I don't know what they're talking Super Bowl about. I mean, you can talk Super Bowl for all 28 teams right now and not be wrong.
All right. We'll see what happens. Chiefs and Saints. Mark it down. Len Dawson said it. Since there is no game next week...
Not as much as Swoboda.
Since there is no game next week, there is no Hibernia Junior Captain of the Week. We'll have one next time around. All right, we've got to take one more break, but afterwards, you'll be happy to hear this, Jim. Back to the Grand Casino. Ron and Rich. We'll also look ahead to Al, Frank, and Dan and Monday Night Football, so stay with us.
When we return, final comments from the Grand Casino in Gulfport and a preview of tonight's Monday Night Football matchup.
We've got time for one last trip up the coast to Gulfport, Mississippi, home of the Grand Casino. Some final thoughts from Ron and Rich. Guys?
Thank you, Lon. You know, this has been so much fun and gone so fast, Rich. I wish we had another hour.
Well, we have another 8 weeks, Ron, and let's see what happens then. But Jim, I do have a question for you, and obviously injuries have been a main focus throughout this entire year.
Not really.
Well,
they haven't been with me or our team.
Well, it seems that way, but
how
let me
does
ask
it
my
seem
question.
How does it seem that way?
Normally when you have that situation, you ask a little bit more of the players that are in there. You ask, and the way you get that normally is through an emotional charge. What do you do as a head coach, I'd be curious to know, to get those guys emotionally charged to play up a notch?
Rich, we expect our players to play up a notch all the time. I don't know how it was when you played, but we expect our guys to play up a notch all the time. So why ask them to do more? Because we ask them to give us our best all the time anyway. So we can't ask them to give us any more because we want
I know that theoretically that works, but sometimes I think everyone needs a little push on occasion. And Coach, when we were 1-15, you can obviously tell that we didn't have much.
You played on that team? You played on that team?
I was on that team, so.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Okay, Coach, speaking of getting things up a notch, Jim Wilkes is out, Sam Mills is out, Les Miller is out, and Frank Warren is out.
You know, it's amazing thing, Ron, is we're still 6-2 with all those guys out.
Well, no, that's good, Coach.
You bet it is.
You beat 6 teams and
you
lost
bet it
to 2
is,
teams.
because the guys that have played for them and the rest of the guys have been playing their tail off.
Well, let me ask you something. You've got 2 weeks before Green Bay. You wouldn't mind having these guys back, would you?
Oh, I'd love
and
to have them
what
back.
are the chances those 4 will be back by then?
We're definitely going to get Miller back. A good chance for Wilkes, and we got a chance for the other 3: Brenner, Mills, and Warren.
And that'll be good, right?
Oh, it'd be
That'll be
outstanding. I like good players on our team, Ron, and those guys are good players, and it'd be good to have them back.
Excellent. Thank you, Coach. That's it from here. Rich?
We'll be back next week, Jim.
Good luck. See you later.
All right, Ron and Rich, we will see you then. Up next year on Channel 8, it's Monday night. Go back to the basics and fundamentals like you did in the other open date. And what are you going to work on now? What needs work?
Well, first of all, the other open date, we didn't necessarily go back to the basics. I mean, I heard and read that we did. We just had normal practices. You know, we weren't preparing for an opponent, but we just had normal football practices. This week, we're probably not going to work quite as hard Thursday and Friday as we did the first week. I think a rest is real important this time of the season for us. So we're giving them, like we gave them today off, and we'll practice Thursday, not hard probably, and then Friday maybe do a little bit more, then they get 3 days off over the weekend.
Coop, last time you came back from the open date, it was in Pittsburgh. Are you guys going to think about that in your mind? Say, hey, let's not have this thing happen again?
No.
Okay.
We have to continue to play good football.
So, open date, though, what are you guys going to work on offensively? I know that's where, as Ron said, that's where most of the problems are.
I mean, usually open week, I have a chance personally to work on just steps for myself or whatever. Get to think about things I'm doing. Practice as usual.
All right, Coop, thanks a lot for joining us. We'll see you next week. Jim, good luck against the open date. We'll see you after that one. We'll be right back here. See you then.
The Jim Mora Show has been a presentation of WVUE Sports. Our special thanks to
Reggie is ready. Well, the question is, are the Saints? We'll preview Sunday's battle with Sterling Sharp and the Packers. We'll go in depth with 2 tight ends, rookie Irv Smith and veteran Hobie Brenner.
I think that you'd have to rate him #1.
We'll review Draft 93 with analyst Mike DeTillier. And those rookies get together for this year's Saints sideline poster, the Wild Wild West. Plus, this turns into this. We'll show you the Sensations trading cards.
Touchdown, New Orleans Saints. You bet.
And dances with the Cardinals. The Saints are heard in the Navajo Nation. Make the big commitment to Saints sideline next.
Thanks for joining us on Saints Sideline. I'm Ed Daniels.
I'm Alexander Leroy. Ed, thank goodness, the off weeks are over. Now they can get knuckled down and get ready to play some ball.
Sound like you really missed the NFL variety of local football this week, right?
I'm looking forward to the Packers game.
Boy, I tell you what, it really sounds like it. Sounds like it was a sad weekend at your home. Wasn't that bad, though. The Saints are looking forward to Green Bay, and of course, then they'll play that big Monday nighter in San Francisco against the 49ers. Clearly, the next 2 weeks will set the tone for the rest of the season. The Green Bay Packers spent a wheelbarrow of cash in the offseason on those free agents, most notably Reggie White. And they're beginning now to play up to expectations. Doug Mouton previews Sunday's big game.
Green Bay's Brett Favre is probably the most excitable quarterback in the NFL. Some people say that's a bad thing. His coach doesn't think so.
He just gets excited when he plays, which is good. That's a good thing. You know, I mean, I don't want him out there yawning, you know.
Boring he isn't. His primary target is Sterling Sharp. If number 84 isn't the best receiver in football, then there are only a couple better. He's got it all. Size, speed, strength, great hands. You've got to stop him to stop the Packers.
Statistically, last year, you know, if you're going based upon last year, you'd have to say that you'd have to start Sterling Sharp, because I believe he had over 100 catches, and the next guy had like 30, and that might have been a running back, you know. So with those disproportionate numbers, I think you have to focus on him.
On the other side of the ball, the Saints have to stop this guy, free agent zillionaire Reggie White.
And I think, you know, guys are making plays, everybody's making plays, and I think everybody's getting a feel of what needs to be done to win.
The task of stopping White falls on rookie William Rhodes, who White praised after their preseason game.
Reggie's the type of guy during the game that just gets stronger as the game goes. I mean, he can beat you in a number of ways. He can beat you upfield. He can use his power and strength, or he can just, you know, run right over you if he wants to. But I think the thing about Reggie that makes him great is that as the game goes on, he gets stronger, you know. He doesn't get weaker. He gets stronger as he picks up. So he's the type of player you have to play for 4 whole quarters. You know, he's never going to take a foul.
The Packers are good and getting better. How the Saints play Sunday will tell a lot about the rest of the season. I'm Doug Mouton for Saints Sideline.
Despite playing in the same conference, Sunday's game between the Saints and the Packers will be their first regular season meeting this decade.
The last time the Saints and the Packers played was back in 1989 at Lambeau Field in Green Bay. Bobby Hebert had a huge day. Here he hits Lonzel Hill for the score. Hebert threw for 282 yards, and the Saints had a 24-7 halftime lead. In the third quarter, Don Mikowski hit Ed West to get Green Bay to within 24-21 and set up a wild fourth quarter.
Play fake. Well thrown ball.
Hebert hits Mo Hill again, and